Hello, YTPC YouTube pipe community. Community of pipe smoking, aficionados, tobacconists. I am Professor Pipe Smoker, and if you stay tuned to the end of this video, I tagged on a special video of kind of the pipes that I own and that I smoke now. Today's video is brought to you by Cherry Vanilla Coca-Cola. Not really, I'm not sponsored. But it seems to be a really good drink to go along with this pipe. And the pipe that I'm smoking is my John Bull Father Christmas. Bulldog shape. Love this inlay. It's actually a blue and a red inlay with silver banding around it. And look at this beautiful stem coloring for Christmas. I'm really just trying to break this in. This is actually the third smoke on this, so getting it fully broken in. And the tobacco that I am smoking this with today is the Peterson Early Morning. And it is early afternoon. And I'm also smoking a Christmas pipe, and it's not even Thanksgiving or Halloween. So definitely open up a double vortex here into the metaverse. And if everybody's life gets screwed up, you can just come here and blame me. I'm also wearing my Bob Marley shirt. I don't smoke ganja. But Marley was an amazing musician. And gone too soon for sure. I wanted to talk to you guys today about being expendable. I remember back in the 90s working jobs, and I kind of remember coming out of the Reagan years, which were the 80s, and coming into the 90s was the Clinton years and early 90s. And it's like Reagan, Bush, Clinton, you know. And the one thing back then in the 90s in a lot of the companies was this fact that employees were expendable. Like, if you don't like it, we can fire you. If you don't like it, leave. If you don't like it. And you could literally have the worst manager in the entire universe, and the company wouldn't get rid of that manager, but they'd rather get rid of a great employee. It was really weird. Now, I don't know about you, but I have been fired a few times in my life from my job. Some of it because of bad management. Professional jealousy. Sometimes they feel threatened if you are actually a better manager or more respected than they are. And when I got fired, that was the case, is that the employees listened to me more than the main manager, general manager. He wasn't a leader, he was a dictator, and people hated him. He fired me, and within a month, the company fired him because they fired me and their sales tanked. I was at Staples. And the last time I knew, he was homeless out in Buffalo, New York somewhere, because he lost every job and then got into alcohol, beat his wife, got arrested. But hey, you know what? That's the way it goes. And that's what his idea was just like he felt, and companies felt, that they could just get rid of people and then replace them, and people would be either better or whatever. So, expendability nowadays shouldn't even be a word. And the reason why is after COVID, there's become a lack of jobs and people to fill them. Not a lack of jobs, a lack of employees to fill the jobs. There we go. And not just employees, skilled employees. See, I think COVID did something to the psyche of us in which a lot of people just reevaluated their lives, and a lot of people took that chance to switch gears into different career fields. Maybe ones that they wanted to be part of before, and now because of lack of people, they could get in on entry level. But for whatever reason, I saw a massive switch over with the people that I was connected with, went into all different fields that they've never were in before. There was a mass exodus of employees in the healthcare field, because that was probably some of the most PTSD stressful times for our first responders and people within those fields. I have a good friend that is a ER doctor, and man, he ended up right after that just quit, took a long break for a while. He was a drummer. Started his own drum stuff, played with different bands. I mean, he was done with the medical field. It was crazy. And I remember talking to him. I FaceTimed him, and he was the most worn out guy I had ever seen in my entire life. Layered up, like 3 layers, and all kinds of masks and coverings and everything. And he was telling me that the ambulances were just block after block. And he was in New York City, so he was in kind of the epicenter of where the COVID was really outbreaking. And he just said it was nonstop. I mean, he put in so many shifts day after day. He got burnout, and just said, "That's it. I'm done." And now he's back, but he moved away, and I think he's down south somewhere now. Yeah, he's in Florida. That's where he's at now. Yeah. So, expendability shouldn't even be used in vocabulary nowadays. Now, I've been in pastoral ministry and ministries my entire life. I am an ordained pastor. I am a licensed pastor. And I can tell you that churches are living in the dark ages because they still think people are expendable. And corporations feel that people are expendable, and companies and businesses, some of them. Now, the smart businesses, the very smart businesses, now realize that people are not expendable. And so that's why you can go to Taco Bell and make tacos for $20 an hour in my area, in here. It's unbelievable. And so they've learned to try to keep a hold of employees, being flexible, giving them time off, not trying to overwork them. I remember being on salary. I'll tell you this story. This is the 90s once again, the roaring 90s that were so great. The computer technology was going to decrease our hours and every other thing. Didn't happen. I was a manager. I was called up to Rochester, New York when I first moved to Rochester to take over a bunch of automotive stores that were being bought out by Firestone. I was a Firestone corporate guy, trained. And so I was sent up there to merge. It was a $23 million merger, 17 stores. They bought out a company that went $23 million in the hole with Firestone buying their tires and couldn't pay it back. And so for the price that they owed them, they sold the whole entire 17-store chain. And these stores were in horrible shape. Most of the managers were coked up and drugged up. The stores were just in disarray. They didn't have any money to fix them. I remember going into one store and the floor, complete cement floor, was just caving in. If you drove a vehicle on the lift, underneath it, it was a reinforced concrete floor. And underneath was their tire storage. They had like conveyor belts that brought the tires up. But if you drove a car in there, it would have went right through the middle of the floor, right to the basement. So we had to maintain, fix all the stores, order new lifts, order new equipment, retrain managers, fire managers, keep the ones that were good, rebuild teams. I was in charge of all of that. And I remember this one store I went into, I had to fire the entire staff from everybody. They were all crooks. They were stealing money. They were stealing just tires, parts, everything out of that store. Now, instead of Firestone giving me some help, or pulling people from the other stores, because I had built up already 6 stores. They could have given me an assistant manager from one, or they could have sent over a great tech. Nope. I worked in that store from open to close 7 days a week. Hiring, training. We totally took a beating for about 3 months while I was building that up and getting the public trust back again, because they had lost it. And the only thing people wanted from us were oil changes. When I went to my district managers and I said, hey, I need some help, I'm really getting burnt out, their reply was, if you don't like it, you can work someplace else. Instead of, we're going to make you successful, we're going to try to give you some help. No. I was working over 80 hours plus a week. It was like a double full-time job, and I was on a salary. They took full advantage of that. And in those days, the laws never protected the employee. They were all for the corporation. So in New York, by the way, still is. New York is a trash state. This place is so trashy. I cannot say enough about how nasty this state is, because even to this day, and I know other states are like this, but there are states that are not. But this state is a hire and fire at will, which basically means if I don't like the way you look, if I think you're too ugly for my place, I can fire you for no reason. There's no, yeah, so for no reason, I can just go in and say, yeah, you know what, you don't fit the bill, you're done, I don't like you, and not get in trouble at all. And then the person can file unemployment, and then the company has the ability to shoot it down and say, we're not paying it. By the way, churches are notorious for trying that as well. And so I just said, okay, well, if that's the way you're going to be, then screw you, because at that time, there was a hiring boom of managers during the 90s. You could literally walk into a place, say, I was a manager at, and they'd be like, you're hired. We need you. There was a shortage, a massive shortage. And so there was all kinds of management positions during the 90s. And I literally that day, I dropped the keys on the counter. I still remember this. I dropped the keys on the counter. I called up the district manager and I said, screw you. I'm headed to Michelin. The next day, I started at Michelin with double the amount of money, better benefits, and double the vacation than Firestone. I only did that for a little bit, and then I got a job in the music industry and said sayonara to the corporate machine all the way across the board. Now, this is where I'm getting with this video. The 90s way of thinking for corporations was that you were just expendable. If you didn't like it, see you later. That should not be in anybody's vocabulary nowadays, because there is enough jobs and career opportunities at this moment post-COVID than there has been since the 90s, getting into great paying jobs where sometimes you don't even have to work like that hard. Sometimes I think about Taco Bell, I'm like, God, I could do that. I could wrap tacos all day, you know. By the way, I know it's not that easy, but I'm just saying. So, I think church work is very interesting. The church that I work at currently, they're pretty cool. They're pretty decent. They're very realistic. But I've worked in other churches that are not realistic at all. And if they lose the numbers because, say, the senior pastor, is, not a very good pastor, they'll threaten to fire the staff people and not even look at that guy. Give you an example. This is really good, by the way, this Peterson early morning. It is a very lovely mix. Very good room note. Very good tin note. Kinda. It's got a weird tin note, but the room note is absolutely fantastic. Now, here's the reason why I'm smoking it, and you guys may get a little kick out of this. I made a meatball sub, and I kind of burnt my mouth on the mozzarella cheese. And so I've been using, some good mouthwash with aloe in it and different things. And that seems to work well. And what I've been doing is smoking this and non-aromatics at the moment, because these burn cooler. I haven't really been smoking much. This has been like one pipe since I burned my mouth going on right now. So let me go back to this. I was at a church. I was a student ministries pastor, youth pastor at this church. And I had a youth group that I built when I started there that only had like 4 kids in it. And when I left there, it was at 175 regularly. That was my attendance. By the way, I wasn't stacking the numbers. That was attendance every week. So on my rosters, I had like 250 kids. And with church, they come in and out during certain times of the week and different things. But steady was 175 at a church that had at the time about 700 people. And then we built that to 900. And 900, I was at 175 because we built 900 people within 6 months. We had built it up. And then it started going through a little decline. Very small decline. Not my youth group, by the way. My youth group was building, holding steady. It was climbing. And probably by the end of that year, I would have been at about, on the roster, about 300-ish youth group members. So, church drops 50. Youth group is climbing. And I have my annual review. Now, here's the average. If a church has 90 people, you should have about 10% should be your youth group size. I was about double the size of the average at that point. By the way, it's nothing that I was doing. I had a fantastic volunteer team who loved these kids. We had an exciting youth group. We did paintball and, all kinds of great activities. And then Sundays we would have 2 services. Junior high would be in the one service, senior high in the other. We'd just fill this room to the point where the kids were just sitting on the floor because they wanted to be there. We made the words of Jesus relevant to them. And they loved it. And we taught them how to live it out. And, it's hard as a teenager. Taught them all that. So I'm at this my annual review, which I hated. Because I knew my worth. I knew that I had doubled that youth group. Every year I had doubled the youth group size. And we were just rocketing to the moon with people that were attending. Government agencies telling families to send their kids to our youth group because whatever we were doing, they seen kids that were just hard noses and ready to go to juvenile delinquent homes, and prisons and end up in my youth group and getting squared away. Mm-hmm. We just loved these kids. We just loved them. Built into them, encouraged them. So I'm sitting across from this pastor. Now, here's the deal. The main church, which was the main body of the adults, had dropped. Nothing in our youth group had dropped. And this pastor sits across from me and he says, I'm not giving you a cost of living increase because the church dropped. Now, the giving had not dropped. There was no dip in tithes, just dip in people. And because if you ever look at a church, normally about 20% of the people normally support financially the church, and about 80 ride for free. But I'm not giving you a cost of living increase because the adults dropped. And since you're on the staff, I'm not giving you anything. Now, here was a pastor who had just gotten a 6% increase himself, wrote it into himself because he was the boss. He started the church. I was deeply offended. I was like, I've been doing my job, man. I've been doing my job well. Told him that. I said, why am I getting punished when my area is growing like crazy and I'm working my butt off to grow this church and this youth group and minister and be a good pastor, and you're punishing me for that? And he was like, yeah, because we can't, afford this. Oh, okay, you can't afford to give me a raise. No, because you didn't meet the numbers, as a church number. I was like, no, you didn't meet the number as a pastor. I grew my number and I did my job. And I ministered to the adults who these kids belong to as well. So I just said to him, I was like, if this is the way it's going to be, I'll just go to another church and do it all over again. I'm not going to sit here and get punished for, when I'm building and doing a great job here. So he says, no, don't do that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll give you a 1% increase. And I just said, I am so offended right now. I cannot believe we're even having this conversation. And then he said, well, if you don't like it, you're expendable. And you can leave the church. Okay. So affect all of these kids' lives that we have spent now, at this point in time, 3 years ministering to. Because you're too cheap to give me a raise. At this point in time, I wasn't even paid an astronomical amount of money. It was like any church with youth pastors, kind of a little over baseline. According to what youth pastors or the size youth group that I had was being made, I was actually being paid about $7,000 less than what I should have been. All I was asking for was a cost of living increase to cover my bills that had gone up, like companies raised, gas, electric, cable. That's all I wanted. I knew I would never get rich being a youth pastor. He wouldn't budge. So, a few months later, adios, bye-bye. I left, moved to Florida. What I want to say to all of you out there, do not think you're expendable. Know your worth. Know your value. Know that people cannot fill your shoes. Know that if you're a good employee, know your worth. Somebody is going to want you on their team. And if the person that is in charge of wherever you're working, whether it's a church or whether it's a company or wherever you're working, if they cannot see your value, either as a volunteer, some people volunteer in churches, or as an employee of a church or a company, if you cannot talk sense into those people, leave. Leave. And then see if they can fill your shoes. Because they cannot. They cannot fill your shoes. I can tell you confidently, this is not prideful at all. The church that I work at now, they could never fill my shoes. I know my value. I know my last job when I left, they had to hire 7 people with the skill sets in all the different areas that I was skill set in within the music industry. 7 people had to fill my position when I left. So, if this is you, by the way, I stuck my finger in my ashtray a little bit over here. Just know, nobody can fill your shoes. And nobody can do what you do if you're a great employee. Please hang on to that. Please know that. And know that you're not only valuable to where you're working, but you are super valuable to your family as well. And that's all I wanted to say. I just want to encourage you guys. Take pride in what you know in your skill set. And don't let anybody put down in your mind as to what you can do and the giftings you bring to your places of employment, to your volunteerism, and to your home. I'm Professor Pipe Smoker, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Hey YouTube pipe community, I just wanted to show you some of the pipes that I own, and it's nothing too fancy but great for rotation. And this is my collection thus far. I'll start down here. That is my Norman Rockwell. This pipe right there is my Roma Coliseum, followed by my Missouri Meerschaums, followed by my Berrettini, followed by my Berrettini Jack. Can't remember what this one is. Viking, John Bull, Peterson, Berrettini, Dr. Grabeau, Berrettini, and this was my very first briar pipe that I paid $20 for in a cigar and pipe shop. And then just some of my, just three lighters and the tamper tool. So that's really what I own. These are my rotation pipes that I smoke through. And obviously as it goes, my collection will keep on going, but I love pretty much all these pipes, some more than others. But I haven't been disappointed with any of them. And for the price, these right here, the Missouri Meerschaums, are just second to none for both smoke and Americana. But they smoke really well. So just wanted to show you guys that. It's my Norman Rockwell actually up here as well. Just wanted to show you guys this.